Time to Write.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Time to Write. I'm Emily.
And I'm Amy.
And before we get started on talking about our topic today, which is making time for marketing as an author, we're going to run through our high lows for the week. And mine is that I descaled the Nespresso machine, which is a fancy coffee machine that we got like a year ago, and we're supposed to do it, and I have been delaying it for over a month, and then it's been spitting the coffee out in this sort of pitiful way, and so it kept showing up on my list, and I kept not doing it, and I tried to pay one of my kids to do it, and he's just like, I don't understand this, and then so I did it, and I feel like I deserve an absolute gold star. So that's my high. And then my low is actually social media related, which is that, and we'll talk about this. I've been doing TikTok for almost exactly a year. And one of the things that we will talk about is one of the things about doing social media is you just have to know the algorithm is going to change. And all of a sudden, something that was doing great is going to tank. And you'll have to figure something else out. And so this week I had weird low, I have low, what people that are massive influencers would call low numbers in general, but like this was like things getting like 7 views, which I think we can all agree is a low number by any measure, right? Like, and things that a week ago were getting 250, 300. And so the time to be like, okay, do I need to look at this in a new way? Those kinds of things. So that was kind of a low, and I was a little bummed that I felt sad because I really am trying to be less controlled by things I can't control. And the algorithm is the definition of things I can't control, but
yeah,
it was still a bummer.
Sure. Well, and I think,
you, Amy?
Well, and I just kudos because that's a disappointment, and acknowledging it and then remembering it, you have no control, and then doing the things that you can. But yeah. Okay. So my high for this week is I was able to meet with my sister for lunch to celebrate her birthday. She lives about 3 hours from me. Yeah. And we do this every once in a while where we kind of meet in the middle and have lunch. And so that was super fun. And then for my low, let's see if I can kind of say this the way I want to. Okay, so back in like October, November of last year, I really started and jumped in on the business that I have going now, which is Accomplished Authors. And I really, by this point, wanted to have accomplished a lot more than I have. And kind of due to some family things that were going on and just some, again, messy middle stressors, I had to put things on hold for a little bit. And this week has really been the first full week that my kids are out of the house, back at college. And so it's really the first week I've had back in a normal routine, and just kind of sitting down and planning and looking at what I've already gotten done and what I want to get done. I think like you, I felt some disappointment, but again, there are things that were out of my control that we were dealing with a sick family member and a lot of logistical things that, anyway, I just want to be further along than I am. And so acknowledging it and being self-aware about it, and then also having grace for myself in it is just a process. And my progress in that is that moment between being disappointed and maybe a little irritated and upset with myself, and the moment where I, snap back and have grace for myself, the time in between those two is shortening. That's where I find my progress. So it's not that I don't feel those disappointments. It's just that I rebound faster. But yeah, I would say that's my low this week. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. The temptation to be like, forget TikTok.
Right.
And just not post at all for a month.
Well, and yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Like I preach not transparency, but yeah, being transparent. I preach like consistency, but I didn't post for a while because I literally, this goes back to what we talked about in our last episode. Like, this was a season when I literally had zero time. There was nothing I could do about it. Like, it was all hands on deck here at my house. We were taking care of a family member. And so I couldn't because I'm human, like we talked about again last episode. So I was humaning, and now I'm jumping back on and being really honest and real with myself and everybody else here, obviously on the podcast, about it, because it happens. I mean, it happens. I will say, you gave me a great idea for the next time this happens, which is, you said somebody you follow put a little video like waving goodbye, like, I'll be back soon. Like, I'm like, brilliant. Like, that just didn't even cross my mind to do anything like that. But I am so putting that in my back pocket for the next time. So
yeah, 100%.
yeah.
That was Samantha Shannon on her
Okay.
Instagram.
Okay. Good to know.
So
Good to know.
I think that leads us perfectly into our marquee topic, which is making time for marketing as an aspiring or as an author at any phase on your journey, from aspiring all the way to multi-published.
Right. And I think this is something you and I've talked about a lot, and it's my passion project right now. And I think the issue is that in the past, with traditional publishing, authors were given resources like publicists and all kinds of help that has now, those duties and that work has been transitioned to the actual author. So I think there's some baseline things that authors have to have. And just from talking to other authors at conferences and having discussions within our critique group, I think, and Em, I'll be interested to hear how you chime in on this. I think a lot of times the attitude about it is like, ugh, this is horrible. I don't want to do this. I just want to write, or I hate this, or it's really uncomfortable, or, fill in the blank in whatever.
I didn't sign up to this to be an influencer.
Right. Or this is one I've heard. I'm trying to spend less time online, not more, those kinds of things. So, and I think our perspective on this is very different. Very different. I think for me, I look at it like social media is a gift because it is free advertising for authors, for anyone, really. It's free advertising. You can get on and talk about your book and do all kinds of things and promote your work. And I also think it's an amazing tool that cuts out the middleman as far as connecting with your readers, right? Like, connecting with the people who actually have your books in their hands.
Well, and it also does this amazing thing where it makes it so that even if, let's say you are an aspiring author, let's say you haven't written anything yet, I think the old ways of doing things would be like, there's a lot of shame attached to that, or maybe you shouldn't talk about it. But if you are, and we will talk later about the best ways to figure out what to share and what not to share. But as you sort of share the steps of your author journey, what people are seeing, and certainly I'm seeing this, is that you're building a community of readers and fellow authors who are really invested and excited for when your book comes out. And so it turns from something that's like, maybe something you feel weird about doing, to something where you're like, oh no, this is actually a really helpful way to engage with my readers. And so I think really being able to sort of flip the script and think like, wait, this is a tool that I have that I never would have had before. I think for many of us, it's understanding, like, I can see for me as a woman from Arkansas, I'm not sure that without social media, this career would even be possible.
Yeah. That's a bold statement, but one I can totally get behind, because again,
I didn't know anybody.
You don't know anybody.
I didn't know anybody.
And without the support of your publisher behind you, like funding and providing marketing resources, then yeah, this is your key. This is the ticket to it, I think. And
Right.
I think it goes back to the mindset. So how are you looking at it? And also the mindset of this is a business. This isn't about putting what you had for breakfast. I mean, although if you're a foodie, that might be something that you share, but it's about being super intentional and showing up for your audience and making those connections and really carving out a place for yourself online. And I think, to be fair and transparent, it's not easy. So I would consider myself an ambivert. I get energy from being with people and also from being by myself. And I would say for introverts, the introverts that I've known, this is a challenge. I guess that's the best way to put it. It's absolutely one that you can overcome. And you will be surprised at how many other introverts you're connecting with, I believe, when you start cultivating your online presence. But yeah, it's going to take some effort. It's going to take planning, but it's absolutely worth it. And the way I like to look at it is just imagining talking to that person who's like, oh my gosh, your book changed my life. Oh my gosh, your book was so amazing. Like, and I think I haven't had that experience yet, but I think you have with some of your readers. So I would love for you to kind of share that, because I think that's been made possible in a lot of ways because of your presence online.
Absolutely. And I think the way that it allows readers to engage, to find you, to engage with you, and then to say, yeah, like this, your book absolutely spoke to me. Like I wouldn't have found it otherwise, or it really told me about, a piece of something I was dealing with. Like, I think those kinds of things have been really great. And then I would say the other piece for me that's really important for me, and I would say just give yourself so much grace on this, like, or I don't know if we're saying grace, but just just
Compassion.
so much grace about it.
And compassion
I
for
have
yourself.
absolutely loved it for the opportunity to meet other authors. So both, like, connecting with readers and connecting with other authors. The danger, I would say, and I think this is the thing, like, that Amy and I would both say about the marketing, is it can't replace the writing. Like, the writing is the primary thing, right? Like, if you're not writing, you're not writing. But it's because of how the algorithms are designed, it is very easy to slip into compare and despair. And so we are not saying like you need to spend 20 hours on, because I feel like around the time that Lifestyles came out, I would say my family would argue that I was on social media too much. And they probably were right, because I was trying to do everything, which people tell you not to try to do everything because you can't. And yet I was still doing that. So I think if you find that it's creating all the negative things that social media can create, like,
Step back. Yeah. And step back. Well, and also the thing that I would offer is when you talk about doing all the things, I would say if you haven't started cultivating that presence, pick one platform, figure out where your readers are and use that platform. And they may be in more than one place. And lucky you get to choose which one you want to be on. So I know, and this is going to be in future episodes. M is very active on TikTok, whereas I am very active on Instagram. And we are actually going to be sharing kind of our experiences and tools and information on those in future episodes. But just pick one and get to really know it well and see what you can learn there and get really good at it. And even if you're just on that one platform and what was it that you said, Em? I really liked it. The compare and despair. If you find yourself falling into that, there are strategies that you can use to minimize that, like setting a timer and only being on for 5 minutes. Or there are lots of other things that you can do that we'll talk about at a later date. But
and right. And Amy and I also talk about the thing is, this isn't about, I know people are really worried about showing pictures of your kids. I almost never show pictures of my kids. They are really worried about having to learn dance steps. I actually have been trying to learn dance steps, but that's because I want to, not because the social media is making me. So I think one of the things you can do is identify, like, what are the pieces of your work that you're excited about sharing. So if you write about your travels, maybe you just post once a week a picture from one of your travels, and then in the caption you talk about how it ties into your work. This, in the same way we talked about last week, it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, in the beginning, hardly anyone's seeing it.
right.
So just
Right. Just
just
try to have fun
enjoy
with it. Yeah. Enjoy it. Have fun with it for sure. And I would even say, like, what will help you have fun with it? For me, I actually run two accounts. One is for accomplished authors. One is for the Ish Girl Reads, which is more my writing one. And on the Ish Girl Reads, one of the things that I love to do is play around in Canva, which is a graphic design platform that is on, well, not platform, but a software or program.
Software, yeah.
Right.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, it's super fun. And so what I have done is just I've made my feed into art basically, and I am including. I have found different quotes from young adult books, kind of centered around different topics. So I'll do nine posts that all have to do with, I think my latest one is like dreams for the future. I've done things on grief. You can go to at the Ish Girl Reads on Instagram and see it. But I have so much fun doing that. And it's very simple to create all 9 posts and then schedule them out for every other day. So I don't even have to think about posting it. It's one and done. And I enjoy it so much. So you find your thing, and I know and I'm just going to say this in the positive affirmative way. Once I have published my book that I'm working on, once it is out there, then I may shift that a little bit, or I may just start including quotes from my own work to kind of point towards my books, and then use different facets of Instagram, like stories and reels, to cover some of the other things. But it's really what you want to make it.
So, and I have 2 final points that I would make about this. Is number 1, if you're probably not listening right now, if you felt this way, but if you are finding yourself like super like mad that we're suggesting this, or like said that like you don't have time, and which is totally where I was in the beginning of this process, is 100% where I was, especially around Instagram, which I still don't have my feet in on Instagram. I'm still working on it, which Amy and I are going to do a podcast about that. Just take that same gentle curiosity that you brought last week when you asked yourself about your writing time, to really look and say, what is it that I am so afraid of here? And for me, or maybe for you, it's not fear. For me, that's always fear.
Well, I would use resistance. Maybe say resistance. Yeah.
So resistant to. And I realized for me, it was the idea that people were going to be commenting on my face. Like, I was so upset about, not upset, like, so like, I did not want to be subjected to other people's opinions about what I look like, that it was keeping me from doing anything. And so once I identified that, I could be like, oh, well, one thing I do is just not show my face. Although that is not a great plan as an author, because people love to see your face. So can I, number 1, go to therapy so I'm less freaked out about my own face, which is for sure been a
For
big piece
sure.
of this journey for me, to where I could just be like, no, this is what I look like. And number two, can I figure out a way to think about this that doesn't make it so scary? So like, and then the other big tip I have, this is a selfie related tip, is when you are figuring out taking selfies, there's two pieces. Number one, hold on. There is this book. It is called Take Your Selfie Seriously. It actually has the Advanced Selfie and Self-Portrait Handbook. It is by Sorrel Amore, something like that. And then there are other places on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok where people talk about how to take selfies. You can do that. Absolutely. And get a good light. Get a good light. It will make all the difference in the world. That's number two. I know we're running long on time, but
Oh,
number
no, we're
three,
good. We're good.
wait at least a day before you look at the pictures. Take the pictures, have them either on your camera or on your phone. Do not go to post them right away, because when you do, something weird happens in your brain that like a day or two of time helps, in my opinion. So those are the tips from someone who was super resistant, to the point where I have a friend who was like, Emily, how many more cups of coffee are you going to show on you? Because I
Well,
was just taking pictures of writing at the coffee shop.
but I'm
not
going
in-
to I'm going to jump in on that though, Em, because I think the pictures at the coffee shop, that was your foot in the door, right? Like that was the way you kind of progressed to where you were researching how to take a good selfie. You were looking at lighting and all of those things. So I think what I would say, and I think you would agree with this too, Em, like find a teeny tiny place to start. So even if it's like a picture of your backyard or of your coffee in the morning or of your dog, and you're talking about how your dog is your coworker because they're the ones who are with you when you're writing all day, or you're bringing everything back to your writing. So just start small in that way, and I think that is probably the best piece of advice that we can give you, because sometimes it's like the book Atomic Habits. I think Em and I have both read that, and they talk atomic in the sense of teeny tiny. Like, what is the smallest piece that you can actually do that will move you forward and will help you just that baby step further along the learning curve, so that you can start to get more comfortable with it. And I'm just going to ask you this too, Em, for your concern about people commenting on your appearance, and that was kind of the cloud hanging over your head, the dread, which once you've answered, I'm going to talk about dread because that's been my struggle. But have you ever gotten any of those kinds of comments? Not even one. Yeah.
What I do get really weird. I get two things. One is every time I post with a writing related hashtag, I get people asking me to promote on their page.
The writer. Yeah. I don't even want to say the name of them because I get those too. Yeah.
But I think but when I first started, I was confused about that. I thought I needed to do something with those. You don't need to do anything with those. And then the second thing I get is like, I do get some very weird, like, of all things, sugar baby requests, which I'm like way too old to be anybody's sugar baby.
What is that even? Okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't even know what that is. Sorry.
It's like if you were somebody was a sugar daddy.
Oh, okay. But you're the beneficiary of that.
The beneficiary, which I'm just way too old for that. Unless you're 80. Anyway, and those you just delete them. Like you don't,
or block. Do you block them, delete them?
To you, sugar daddy request guy is not a reader. So just
right. So I would, just that baby step then of doing that, and then
the thing I would say to remember is this is actually your storefront on the internet.
Yes.
So this is your playground. So you get to decide. We don't get to decide. You get to decide. But I would say there's a danger of too much research. Amy and I both are really, really bad about it. So I'm going to
Yes.
put a limit on this. I would say if you have a general sense of what kind of books you would like to write and who the authors are that you are the most excited about that write the kind of books that you would like to write, 5 of them. Go and find 5 of them and just look. What you probably will see is what I saw when I did this is number one, the really wide variety of what people post, how many followers they have, how regularly they post. None of it matters. All this is doing for you is providing a home base where when people want to engage with you, they can find you.
Well, and then
it's your garden.
The other important piece is whether we like it or not, I feel like this is where the agent that you query, the editors that you put your work in front of, the publishers that are looking at you, they're going to try to find you and just to glance at it, and you want to be able to be found. So whether you're posting once a week, once a day, whatever it is, you need to have, it's a baseline. You have to have that presence.
It's just a little home base on the internet. And the other thing, the single biggest thing on this too is like, this is not the place where it's not the same as your personal page.
No, not at all.
So it's not where it's just really trying to think like, what would you want people to think about your writing? So
it's thinking with a business mindset. It's a business.
And then you can absolutely baby step, like we're saying. But I would say this gets back to something we will talk about in a later episode about calling yourself a writer. But do make sure that when you start this, that you make writer part of your identity from the get-go, because what you don't want to do is build a following that is attached to you as like a reader or a knitter or a baker, when what you want to do is be a writer. So just leading with the writing.
That's good advice. I think I need to tweak my Ish Girl Reads one, which
just a little,
just to say that I'm a writer. But also I'm transitioning from a business where I was mainly podcasting and doing nonfiction type things. So and that's the other thing. Like that's not wrong that I don't have it on there. It's just I'm tweaking and trying to lure the algorithm to send me my people. Right. So,
and none of this is the other thing. You can delete things. Like, I know everybody says the internet is forever, and sure, the internet is forever, but like, absolutely. If I have a post that like just now TikTok, we will talk about this later. TikTok is a whole other thing. Don't delete your TikToks. Just leave them up there unless you like are morally opposed to them for some reason. Now just keep them up. But other things, you can delete them. You don't have if it's something where you're like, oh, I don't really like this. Just delete them.
Just pull it off. So that would be
I think our biggest message is that this is, rather than being something that is made to torture you as an author, this is your opportunity to meet and connect with fellow authors and with other readers. Because really, everyone there are a few New York Times bestsellers who have someone running their social media. They're still having to post for the selfies, guys. They're just having someone else taking them. But the rest of us, including most people who are doing really well, they're in the same boat. Everybody's in the same boat.
For sure. And let me just throw this into just something that I recall somebody said to me once. They're like, when I'm a really big author, then I'll get somebody and I'll pay them to do this for me. But I think that's kind of the cart before the horse. I think, again, this is a baseline. And even if it's small baby steps and the minimum amount possible, like there is a minimum requirement. Like this is something you absolutely need.
Even if you're paying someone to do it for you, you are the driver. This is the thing, is like your readers want to connect with you as a human. So it's almost like someone else couldn't do it for you.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing I would
And it
say
can
is,
help.
even if you can afford to pay for somebody to do it right now, this second, you want to know enough to be dangerous, to like understand exactly what they're doing for you, so that so that they're doing it the way that you want and the way that you want to be represented. Like, you have to know what you want posts to be about, the kind of pictures that you're going to share, the information that you're willing to share about your life or not. And so, yeah, it really is a
And
personal.
for anyone who doesn't know, Amy Kelly has a business that will help you and helps others to do this. This is you will find this as an ongoing thing on this podcast. Amy Kelly has a business to promote, where
Thank
she
you.
will help you and has helped other authors identify these. And we will have future episodes about figuring out what to post.
Well, and let me just,
Today,
yeah, this is just about baby steps. And I will say, one baby step that you can take, I do have a freebie where it talks about, if you don't have no idea where to start as far as what to post, I have some ideas for what authors can post. You can pick that up at theishgirl.com and just go into accomplished authors and find that freebie. And I'll put a link to in the show notes on this directly to that freebie. But again, baby steps, easy
baby
stuff
steps,
that you can do. Yeah.
baby steps. So yeah, and just back to that whole idea that like, what is the minimum you can do to get started? Because as hard as it is, and it is hard, as I just clarified, I could not take a picture of my own face in the spring of 2019. And now I post TikToks every damn day, which are just my face. So it does get easier, or some pieces of it get easier.
Some pieces of it get easier, for sure. For sure. So proud of
Okay.
you, Em. All right. So thank you guys. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know. And hey, tag us with the hashtag time to write, so that we can see what you're posting once you take those baby steps. We're super excited about that.
And please let us know what book changed your life. Hey, Amy, any books changing your life today?
Oh, today. Oh, let's see. One that I'm super, super, super duper looking forward to, that I know will change my life. And actually, I'm reading the previous book that I already read last year when it came out, is Cassandra Clare's Chain of Thorns is about to come out. And the one that I'm reading to kind of refresh my memory is the one before that. I think it's Chain of Iron. So yeah, I'm loving it. Like, every time I read any of her things, I'm like, oh, this is the kind of author that I want to be. She's phenomenal. Love her. Changing my life. How about you?
Oh yeah. So I am reading Lee Bardugo's Ninth House right now, which is same. Like I absolutely like, the world building is so good. And then also just like the absolute, like, the heroines just, I just love her stuff. So
I have that downloaded. That's on my to be read list, because it's on Kindle Unlimited right now. In case you're wondering, Lee Bardugo's Ninth House, right?
Ninth House.
I'm excited about that.
That I'm tearing up. Of course, Amy knows this. I am the world's most ADHD reader, so I'm actually reading it out of order.
What? I don't think I did know that.
About me?
What?
I get to the midpoint in books and I kind of like, my brain just goes like, all the midpoint stuff that authors do that's so good, and my brain just goes like blah, 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 blah. So I'll read it backwards. So I read the last chapter and then I'm reading back to where
Okay, so you read the last chapter first?
I read the last chapter, and then I read the next to the last chapter, and then I read back to where I do this all the time.
Okay, did not know that about you. Like, we've been critiquing together for what, like 7 years now? I had no idea you were a read the last first kind of girl.
I get anytime where I get distracted, and believe me, people, like, I get distracted at the
same
literal drop of a hat. anytime I get distracted in a book, I'll go and I'll always read the last sentence. And that'll tell me whether or not to. I'm not saying I get bored, because I don't get bored. It's I get
Anxious?
my brain just spritzes. There's something about the end of Act 1 where my brain just goes like, "Ooh." So I'll go and read the last sentence. And then if I'm like, "Oh yeah, I really want to," then I'll read the last chapter and then. So that's what I'm doing.
That is fascinating. That is super fascinating. Because I know there's
when I don't care about spoilers. I don't care about spoilers.
Okay, I totally do. Just for the record, I totally do. But I will say, I know there's a book that there was a series where we both got snagged at the same book. It's the, what is it? They just came out with a TV show for it. Three Pines. What's her name?
The Armand Gamache.
Gamache. Who is that? Why can't I not?
Penny.
Louise Penny. Thank you. So we both got caught at the fourth book. Did you do that with that one? Did you read the last line?
100%.
Okay, I haven't done that. And you still didn't go back yeah. And you didn't go back and finish it.
I didn't. At that one, I just read the last chapter and then I didn't read the
whole book.
I love, I'll read the intervening pages in between where I went offline.
And then you read the last one and then you go back and okay. Huh. I may have to try that. That's interesting. Very interesting. Although I have to say my TBR pile is so huge. That's not at the super big top of it right now. So, okay. Right. Can you tell we totally get sucked into book talks, like total book talks. All right.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks so much for being with us today.
We love our people and we want to get to know you better.
So email us at questions@timetowritepodcast.com to have your questions considered for the show.
You can also suggest topics by emailing us there.
Also, drop us a review on Apple Podcasts. Not only will it thrill us.
Seriously, we read everyone.
It also helps others find the show.
We're driven by sharing stories, and your review helps us do that.
Just remember, your stories matter, and we're rooting for you to find time to write.
Even if it's only 5 minutes. 5 minutes, you can do it.
You can do it.